225 for voice. Could you state your full name and spell your last name, please? It's Lisa Little, Little. What's your date of birth? August 25th, 1968. How old are you today? 28. Were you a methamphetamine user? Yes. Is that crank? Yes. Did you use that drug regularly? Yes. How did you ingest it? I injected it with a syringe. Yes. Have you ever used heroin? Well, yeah. When did you start using heroin? Well, mostly since last April. And do you recall April 1996 when Billy Little was murdered? Yes. Is that around the time where you started using heroin? Yeah. Around that time were you also using crank? Yeah. Did you know Billy Little? Yes. And approximately how long ago did you meet him? About 10 years ago. And did your relationship evolve to a romantic one? Yeah. And how long did that last? About 3 years. Was he a father of one of your children? Yeah, my oldest daughter. What's her name? Linda Little. Did you purchase drugs from Billy Little? Yes. What kind? Crank. Did you believe that Billy Little molested your children? Oh, yes. That's Linda and Grace. Right. Did you accuse him of it? Yes, I did. Did he deny it? Yes, he did. Was he prosecuted for it? No. Did you write a poem on one occasion about your feelings about Billy? Yes. As it related to your belief he molested your children? Yes. And did I show that to you earlier today when you came in here? Yeah. Showing you what's been marked States Exhibit 241. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. Why did you write that? Because I was going to put it in his mailbox and I never got around to it. So that was never sent to him? No. Where did you keep it? It was in my dresser drawer in my house, my apartment. And even though you believe that he molested 2 of your children, did you continue to purchase drugs from Billy? Yes, I did. Do you love your children? Yes, I do. Did you believe other people were molesting your children? After Bill had molested my daughter, I went through a little stage where I did believe that everyone around me and around her was doing that to her. Did that include John Smith? Yeah. So at one point you believed John Smith had molested your children? Right. Did you believe Teresa Smith's roommate Joe had also? Yes. Were you concerned that a person named Joe Carter also may have? Yeah, that was my son, Sean. Do you know Jesus Smith? Yeah, he's my boyfriend. Did you call him John? Yes. When did you meet him? About 3 years ago. Do you recall who introduced you to him? Yeah, my best friend, Teresa Smith. What was your relationship with him? He is my boyfriend. He lived with me. We have a daughter together. Was John a drug user? Yes, he was. Did he use methamphetamine? Yes. Was that his drug of choice? Yes. Did he also, around April of 1996, begin to use heroin? Yes. Did he, during that time, continue to use crank also? Yeah. Did John meet Billy? Yes. And do you recall approximately when they met? A couple years ago, 2 years. 2 years before April 1996? Yeah. Did John buy drugs from Billy Little? Yes. Did he buy crank from him? Yeah. Approximately how many times would you say John Smith bought drugs from Billy Little? Lots of times. How many, could you give us an estimate? 100, maybe more? When you say he bought drugs from him, does that mean he bought them from him personally? Right. Is it fair to say that John Smith and Billy Little had been together at least 100 times before the murder? Or more? Yeah, probably more. Did John Smith also think that Billy was a child molester? Yes. Do you know Ray Bobby Hartman? Yes. What did you call him, Gary? Do you see him in court today? Yes. Would you point at him for the record? He's right there. The record should reflect she's pointed to the defendant. When did you meet him? Prior to April of 1996. I met him 3 times before that. Would that have been how much before Billy Little's murder? About a month and a half. Can you tell us about the first time you met him? Well, my boyfriend John went to go pick him up and he brought him to my apartment where John and I were living, which is in what city? Las Vegas. And John had some heroin and Gary did some heroin and I did some crank and he also had crank. And we just stayed up all night long. How was it ingested? The heroin and crank injected for everybody? Did Gary also do crank? I am not sure about that. I think he did, but I don't know for sure. I know that he did heroin though. When is the second time you saw him? He came over to my apartment to bring my children some bunk beds. And who was he with on that occasion? By himself in his van. Was John there on that day? Yeah. Did you guys converse? No, because I was laying on my bed. I had been up for several days and I was tired. I was laying on my bed and I just heard them talking in the living room. You heard John and Gary conversing? Right. The third time that you met him was when Billy Little died. Beyond that, for the most part, that month and a half before Billy Little died, was John Smith living with you? Yes. And did you talk to him regularly? Yes. And you saw him regularly? Yes. Did John Smith during that month and a half period hang out with Gary Carter? Yes, he did. How do you know that? Because he said that he was going to take off and go do something. Objection, hearsay. Just a second, Mr. Savage, Your Honor. That's consistent with the home doctrine, someone saying they are going somewhere. That's 803A3. The objection is overruled. You may answer. Because he said that he was going to go and see Gary, and then Gary would call once in a while on the phone. And then John would take off and he was going to had something to do with Gary, but he never told me what or whatever. I didn't ask. Your Honor, I will raise the objection again. The answer doesn't fit in with the contours of the home doctrine. Take the jury out, please. Okay, Mr. Keys, do you wish to state further the objection? The objection is to the hearsay with respect to what he said to her for the reason that her response as articulated does not fit the contours of the home doctrine as I phrased the objection, and that simply doesn't comport with the doctrine intends to let in. Mr. Savage, Your Honor, evidence rule 803A3 talks about the state of mind then existing regarding plan, intent, or design. Someone telling someone, I plan to go meet Gary. That's evidence rule 803A3, state of mind of then existing plan.